everyone, and welcome to Total Football Talk. I'm Anthony.
And I am Eric.
And we're going to talk. Today's our prediction show, but we're also going to talk a little XFL. So, Eric, we're talking about uniforms, although we don't know uniforms yet. So, we're talking about logos and teams. Take it away.
Logos and teams. All right, up first, Dallas Renegades. I shouldn't really be surprised. It's got a dude with a hat on with a handkerchief over his face, covering everything but his eyes, which are red, and his color is blue. Correct me if I'm wrong, man, but this looks way too close to the Arena Football League Dallas Desperados. I'm excited for Dallas. I'm just not sold on their logo.
I actually like the logo, and I like the name. I think the Dallas Desperados are defunct, and it is slightly different in the sense that it's more menacing looking than positive looking. If you want to get into the the nuts and bolts of it all, but I think ultimately, I think the uniform design is a little bit of an homage to the Houston Oilers with the Love You Blue, and red and white. So have to see what the uniforms look like, but I would have to say, if I had to rate them top, 1 through 8, because that's how many teams there are, right? I'd probably go with the Dallas Desperados sitting at about 4th, kind of right in the middle.
Yeah, I'd put them top 4.
Top 5, yeah, there you go. All right, so they're 4th for me, and they're 4th for you. I want to talk about the Houston Roughnecks. I love the call out to the Houston Oilers in this logo.
They took the Houston Oilers logo and just added an H to it.
I love it. Because the NFL really screwed the Oilers, and everyone wanted the Oilers to return. And what did they do? They didn't listen to the fans. They made the Houston Texans. It wouldn't have cost the NFL much to buy the name out of the Titans organization and go ahead and make it the Houston Oilers. But they didn't do it, and I like the fact that the XFL is capitalizing off of that. For that perspective alone, okay, and I haven't seen the uniform, but as far as logos go, okay, and this is different. I like the logo. Haven't seen the uniform or name. I'll probably go 3 here. I think it's the 3rd best logo in the bunch.
Yeah, you're going to see some red, obviously, in the uniform on this. So depending on how it plays and if they have like a white helmet with the logo that they're showing right now, with maybe like a stripe down the center or something like that, kind of like a nod to the Houston Oilers, but only instead of the blue that the Oilers had, but the red. I think it could look really flashy and really good.
Yeah.
I actually, as much as I think it's a ripoff of the Oilers logo, which it pretty much is because they just added an H, I still love the logo. I'm putting it at 2.
Oh, wow. Okay, you put it 2. Yeah, I put it 3. All right. The most disappointing of them all, the Los Angeles Wildcats. Really?
I see that. I'm like, I hope you actually change your logo.
At some point, they may have to. It's unoriginal. It's lazy. It's not flashy, and it's USC colors. I think this is probably the worst one of the bunch. I put this at 8. Now, the uniforms still look really good, okay, but I'm still putting it at an 8.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree there with you as well. I mean, you're right. A little too USC-ish for me. I want to see more. I want to see more. I want to see how the uniform looks. I swear to you, Anthony, if they have the gold or the yellow or whatever the heck you call that for the L as their pant color, and then they have the A as their jersey color, I mean, you might as well just call them the Trojans.
Right. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that. Now, I have to. Okay, you take it away with the next one. The New York Guardians.
New York Guardians. Okay, first thing that I saw when I saw this logo, okay, I thought of aliens when Sigourney Weaver had the alien right next to her on the side, and its mouth was open. It was like basically ready to eat her face off.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that I thought of when I saw this. I'm like, that's way too close to aliens for me. But I mean, the Wildcat looks pretty cool with the long 2 front long teeth and like with the mane in the back. Guardians, man, I need to see more. I want to see what the uniform looks like. I mean, it looks like it's going to be like silver and blue, like a little Detroit Lionish.
Silver and red, Eric. Silver and red.
Silver and red, I guess.
Yeah.
We'll see how that looks. On a uniform and how it looks on TV as well. I'm going to give this one a 6.
Ooh, you're putting it 6, huh? Here's where I'm at. This could either be the best logo of the bunch at number 1, or I'm going to put it number 5. Because I don't know. Look, if they go with, there's potential for this to be a really awesome looking uniform. Add a little black to it, put a little silver and red in there. You really have the potential here for something great. But unfortunately, I think there's only really 2 ways you can go with the logo. So for me, as much as I like it and I think it's cool as heck, I got to go 5. I'm putting it at 5. I think there could be more to do, and we'll have to wait and see, but I go with a 5. All right, I'm going to go with the next one, the St. Louis Battlehawks. This for me is the number 1 logo of the bunch. I love the uniform. I love the color scheme, blue and silver with a little bit of white in there. I know some people might be thinking Dallas Cowboys, but who knows? I mean, that's not a bad color scheme that the Cowboys have. I just like the name. I like the logo design. I like the fact that it's something new, something creative, and something unique for St. Louis. Yeah, they could have gone with the St. Louis Steamers, and that would have been a callback to the St. Louis's heritage and its organization. But I like the name. I like the logo set up for me. This is the best logo of the bunch. It's number 1 in my book.
I love the logo. I just think it's too close to the word Blackhawks that the Chicago hockey team is. I really do. St. Louis Battlehawks, Chicago Blackhawks. It's very, very similar. I can't wait to see the uniform combination for the Battlehawks.
Yeah.
I think this could be one of the best of the bunch. I actually think it's going to be one of the top 2 of the best of the bunch. But I'm excited for St. Louis to actually get a team. And I know people are already rallying around and being like, I'm already a Battlehawks fan. I'm like, they haven't even played yet.
I'm a Battlehawks fan. That's honestly.
But I know people are excited for football to return to St. Louis, and I'm looking forward to what this logo and uniform combination go. I'm putting it at number 1 as well.
Oh, very cool. Okay, so we agree on that. Look, I think personally, we'll talk about it. I want to know the top 2 teams that you're going to be rooting for. I'll be a homer and say we can go 3 because why not? It's a new league and we can do that. So, your top 2, and then who would be the outside third one that, depending on uniform combination, could replace your number 2? And do you have a definitive number 1? But why don't you go ahead and start with the Seattle Dragons?
All right. Okay. So the University of Alabama. Oh, wait, hold on. So UAB and Seattle Dragons, I think they just swapped logos a little bit. They're very, very similar. And the only difference is with the Dragon Mouth Open, the way it is with UAB college football team and their logo, and the Seattle Dragons. I thought Seattle could have done something a little different, a little bit more nod to the Northwest. What that might be, I don't know. I mean, you have the Mariners, you have the Seahawks. You could have done the Seattle Abominable Snowmen or something. I don't know. but if this was original, I would love it. I can't love it because UAB is like, hey, you're taking our logo, basically. I'm curious if there's going to be like a naming rights violation or a logo violation or something like that if it comes out. I'm curious about that. I want to see if also the uniform combination, if they're going to go crazy like they do with the Seahawks with I know the Seahawks can get away with the fluorescent or whatever they use for the green, however they do it. So I can't imagine the Seattle Dragons doing that. But like a red and green, I mean, it's going to look like Christmas on the field all day. But as far as that goes, because it looks too much like UAB, I'm going 7 with the Seattle Dragons.
Yeah, see, for me, I'm with you on that one. I got him at 6, not necessarily at 7. And I guess for me, I have three issues with this. One, the logo looks too busy, right? I know it's neat and it's clean, but the color combination, you got red, you got blue, you got green, you got white. It looks like there's a lot of color combinations, and I do look with what the Seahawks did for a uniform change from the 80s to the recent ones and even the ones before that. I have no faith in anybody that owns a franchise in Seattle to get the uniforms right. I mean, they used to be awesome at it, right? You had the Seattle Supersonics, one of the coolest uniforms in basketball, and I'm talking about in the early 90s. I'm not talking about that crazy crap that they wore to the NBA Finals against Chicago. But that's an example of they lost it. The Seahawks and the Supersonics had some of the coolest uniforms and some of the coolest court designs in all of sports, and then they went full retard. And I have not liked anything Seattle has put out since the mid 90s, so I have no confidence whatsoever that this is going to be any different. I think the logo is a ripoff. There's too many college teams out there that are something similar to the Dragons. You could have gone with something, like you said, more of a call out to the Seattle area. Next up is the Tampa Bay Vipers. This for me is number 7. Green and yellow is fine. I don't mind that color combination, but no creativity behind the uniform design. No sense whatsoever behind the name of the team. I don't know of any. I mean, maybe they have snakes, vipers. Okay. When I think viper, I think of, king cobras. I think of rattlesnakes. I think of venomous, poisonous spiders. I don't think boa constrictors, which is about all Florida is known for. I don't like it. I don't like the name. I don't like the logo design. It's lazy. It's just a V. There's no concept of Tampa Bay anywhere in this logo or in the team name. It's number 7 for me.
All right, well, this is the only one we're going to disagree on because this is number 2 for me. Listen, I love the snake eye. It is great. I love it. You don't have to have... Listen, when's the last time you saw a ram in Los Angeles? Okay, got it. Thank you. I rest my case.
There's at least bighorn sheep in there, buddy.
What?
There's bighorn sheep in L.A.
Yeah, in the zoo.
Whatever.
Anyways,
Whatever.
So... I like it. I think it's a lot different from anything else that Tampa Bay's done before, and that's why I think it sticks out. Listen, you got the ugly Tampa Bay uniforms right now. They need to go back to their old school ways. The Rays, those are blue and white. Okay, great. Lightning, blue and white. Okay, great. Who else plays in Tampa? I don't know. But the Vipers, I like the green. I like the yellow. I think it could go well. As long as they don't do Arizona Diamondbacks to their uniforms, what the Diamondbacks have done to theirs to make it bad, to talk about, the snakes, they can really get away with this and make it really good. I think this can be the second best logo and uniform combination in the XFL.
Interesting. Well, all right. Take over the DC Defenders. Are the last ones.
All right, DC Defenders. To me, this is right there at number 5. Listen, there's a lot to say about the DC Defenders. I think there's a lot that is left to be desired. I want to know, are they making this uniform combination? I know the Defenders and the Shield. It's just red and white. But are they going to make like a red, white, and blue uniform combination? Is it just going to be red and white? I mean, is it going to clash when they're on the field with the Houston Roughnecks or the LA Wildcats? I need to know more. That's why I think there's so much left to be desired. But I also like it. I feel like it's a call out, a little under the table call out to Marvel, and saying, hey, we saw your movie. We liked defending the world and whatnot. We're going to create DC Defenders. And I want to say that's what it's for, but I don't know. I need to know a little bit more background history, but this has a lot of potential, and it could easily rise up the ranks for me as soon as uniform combinations are announced, home road uniforms, and if they end up doing anything different, as far as tweaking the logo or even keeping it the same. But I really want to see the uniforms. This has so much potential.
Yeah. See, for me, this is number 2. The name is a call out to the United States military and where the home of the military resides, which is DC. It's also what our politicians are supposed to do. They're supposed to defend the United States, although they do a miserable job of that. But I like it because it makes sense. It ties into Washington. It has that national feel to it. It's not over the top in the uniform design. It's not crazy. It's not busy. It's simple. I agree. This could drop or go, for me, it could drop dramatically if the uniform design is lazy. I would like to see a white helmet with a red face mask and maybe the shield on it with maybe a red stripe, or maybe put defenders across the helmet like the old Giants used to do on, a white helmet, or even a red helmet and do it in white. I don't know what they could do to really sparse it up, considering what we're looking at is a pretty basic and simplistic logo, but I like basic. There's something to be said about the Nebraska Cornhuskers, right? Maybe they go with a white helmet, a red D, and a stripe down the middle and go red shirts and white pants, right? Make it look kind of like Nebraska. They could go, full on Alabama and go red on red with white, accenting it and maybe not put numbers on it, but put the shield on it. Basic works for uniforms. You don't want to go over the top, too busy, crazy. People don't like it. It's why the Broncos aren't well received with their uniforms. It's why people don't like the Patriots uniforms when asked to compare the 80 uniforms with the modern ones. It's why people prefer the Browns' old uniforms over these new ones. It's why every old uniform is preferred over the new, because the new are busy and over the top and in your face, and the old is simple, classic, and clean. And that's what I like about the DC Defenders. So for me, they're number 2. And I have to say the Seattle Battlehawks are number 1. Now, as far as teams you're going to root for, Eric, I got to know, do you want me to go first or do you want to go first? Give me your top 2 and a possible third that may replace your number 2.
I'll go first. It really kills me rooting for a St. Louis team, but the Battlehawks would be tops. I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Vipers as well, and a third team would be Houston. I've always loved the Oilers, colors, the Oilers logo. Really stunk when they left Houston, and then they got the Texans. But I don't dislike the Texans logo and colors or whatnot. They just want to be a little different, which is fine. But I don't know. That logo always gets me. Like they're definitely in the top 3 for me. And if I had to throw, let's just say, I have to throw a 4th, it'd be DC Defenders. I love the logo there.
Yeah. So see, for me, we're almost identical. My number 1 is the St. Louis Battlehawks. Just from the logo alone and the possible designs. Obviously, these are not the teams we're going to be rooting for, people. We don't know who we're going to be rooting for. Just going off of the logo and location and possibilities. For me, St. Louis Battlehawks, New York Guardians, 1 and 2. I like what they could do with that. Me, I'm with you, Eric. A third one for me, just because of the call out and the logo. I got to go with the Houston Roughnecks as my number 3. They could easily replace one of those 2. And then, yeah, if I had to go a 4th one, I'm right there with you again. I got to go DC Defenders. I think it's clean, it's neat, it's classic, and there's a lot that they can do with it. So, I like it. So, yeah, if I had to go with an outside one, I'd go with DC as well. But for me, it's Seattle, New York, and Houston. And you got Seattle, Tampa Bay, and Houston. So,
right.
That's pretty cool, man. All right, well, enough with the XFL. Let's get to the NFL. Eric, we are going to do our prediction show. This is always the longest show of the year. Do you want to start with the NFC or the AFC?
Let's start with the AFC.
Go with the AFC. So then, do you want to go backwards from west to east, or do you want to go east to west?
We can go backwards from west to east. Go from left to right.
All right.
In the U.S.
Let's do that. Like you're reading a book. If you don't mind, E, I want to go first on the West.
Take it away.
All right. So for me, it's really simple. I don't think Kansas City is going to be as good of a football team as they were a year ago. I think people are going to figure out Patrick Mahomes, and his numbers are going to dip. Does that mean Mahomes won't be a Pro Bowler and a superstar? No. I just don't expect 50 touchdowns, 5,000 yards passing, and the Chiefs to go 13-3 or whatever ridiculous record they went. However, that being said, looking at the Chiefs' schedule, seeing what they've got to work with, knowing the talent that they have, they're still good enough offensively. I have big concerns about defense. The addition of Frank Clark is big, but the loss of Houston, the loss of Breeland, the loss of I'm sorry, not Breeland, the loss of Eric Berry, the loss of where is he? I just saw him. Houston, D Ford. I just think that's a lot to lose, and I think the Chiefs are going to take a major dip down. I got Kansas City winning their division at 10-6. They could very easily be the wild card team and lose their division at 10-6 because I think there's going to be two 10-6 teams. But for me, I got Kansas City Chiefs winning the division at 10-6, and I'm going to put them right atop the AFC West. Barely, but I got them atop the AFC West. Eric, your turn. Let me go through. I'm sorry. I just want your input on that, and then I'll go through the whole division.
Okay. I agree with you on a lot of what you said. Okay, as far as Mahomes not being better, and I don't think really anybody expects him to be better. However, they did pick up Tyrann Mathieu to play in that secondary, and if he can stay healthy, that's a big if. I think the Chiefs' defense is a lot better. Listen, when you let go of your defensive coordinator mere hours after the AFC Championship game, and Bob Sutton is no longer on that staff, you have already upgraded your defense. Then they go out and hire Steve Spagnuolo to run the defense. And that defense is already going to be 10 times better. Listen, I think the Kansas City Chiefs offense won't be as explosive as it was a year ago. And I'm not expecting 50 touchdown passes. I'm not expecting over 5,000 yards from Mahomes. But if he threw for 4,500 yards and 45 touchdowns, you've lost 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, but maybe you picked up those 5 touchdowns somewhere else, okay? And even if he drops to 40 or 42, and even if he drops to 39, listen, the Chiefs can rely on their defense this year. They're not going to be as Swiss cheese as they were last year. As far as the Chiefs go in regards to their schedule, I have them winning the West, and they're going to easily go at least 11-5.
Okay, so we disagree on the record. All right, next up in this division, I think this team's also going to be 10-6. I think they're the most underrated team. Well, I think they're the second most underrated team in the AFC. There's only one team that's more underrated than them. Denver's being overlooked because people seem to think Joe Flacco's done. I don't know where people are getting that. The Falcons. The Ravens decided to run an offensive system with Joe Flacco that Joe Flacco has never run, that Joe Flacco could never run, that does not exploit Joe Flacco's talents. They did nothing to build a team around him after the Super Bowl. In fact, they stripped him of every single weapon he ever had and brought in garbage to replace it. And despite that, the Ravens were competitive every single year. He goes to another team with a great defense. He, I think, is going to have a big-time year in that rarefied air Denver. And I got the Denver Broncos going 10-6 and finishing in second place in that division. Are they in the playoffs? I'm not doing wild card teams. I'm going to do a different breakdown for the wild card teams, and then I'll tell you who I think is going to make it. They are definitely in my wild card picture, as they say. I got Denver as definitely one of the major teams that will be competing for a wild card berth. Next up is my third place team, and I don't think they're making the playoffs this year. I'm sorry, forever. I think there's too many question marks with Melvin Gordon. I think that the age is still a concern for me, but not necessarily for the position you think. You know, Phillip Rivers is obviously getting up there in age, but I think there's some age issues as well on the Chargers. I don't want to say tight end position, but receiving core. I know that you might be thinking, Anthony, what are you talking about? No one's over 30. Injuries, they're playing old. They play like they're old. Between injuries, between health issues, there's a lot of question marks that I have with the San Diego Chargers. That's right, I went there again. That I don't like. I also worry about their depth on defense. I think that they have some age issues on defense as far as their backups go. So, I mean, I'm looking right now, if you just look at their D-line, right? Mebane, their nose tackle, 13-year veteran. You got Melvin Ingram's going into his 8th year. You've got Thomas Davis Sr. He's going into his 15th year. You've got where is he? I just saw him. Going back to offense. You've got Russell Okung, who they just picked up, who's a 10-year guy. Mike Pouncey is a 9-year guy on their offensive line. Now, they have depth at that position. I'm not worried about that. But Virgil Green, the tight end, is in his 9th year. Hunter Henry's only played 4 years, but I'm sorry, Hunter Henry is anything but a fantasy football tight end. The only person that drafts Hunter Henry for fantasy football is Hunter Henry's father, and he puts him on the bench. Let's just be perfectly honest, okay? I've never seen, outside of one season, Hunter Henry produce. The Chargers potentially could win the division. This is the most unique team in all of the AFC. I have them third, and I have them going 9-7, 8-8. They very easily could be 12-4, win their division, have a first-round bye. That's the window that the Chargers have to operate. There's just too many question marks, and I'm putting San Diego right now at third. But understand, I said this now, they could very easily win that division at 12-4 if things come together for them correctly. Because age, although it can be a problem, can also be a benefit. Last but not least, the Oakland Raiders. I do think they'll be improved. I don't think Antonio Brown is going to be the issue. I think the issue is going to continue to be the fact that the Raiders don't have a running game, the fact that the Raiders don't have an offensive line, and the fact that their defense takes too many plays off. I could see the Raiders going 6-10, 5-11. It's an improvement from last year's what? How many games did they win last year? 4? 3. 4. They won 4. So, yeah, I think they'll improve that by 2 games, maybe even 1 game. And they're going to limp out of Oakland and head to Vegas and be the first team that the NFL had to physically remove from its location due to legality issues. Eric, take it away.
All right. Well, we actually have the same order for the AFC West. So, a lot with the Chargers rides on what does Melvin Gordon do. Can Keenan Allen stay healthy? And if those answers are Melvin Gordon comes back to play week 1 and Keenan Allen plays at least 16 games, the Chargers can go first, second, or third in that division. And I think there's still a lot of arm in Phillip Rivers left for him to throw the ball and sling it all over. But he wants his Melvin Gordon, and I understand he wants him. It takes a lot of pressure off Rivers to do everything himself. Can Eckler carry the load? Can Justin Jackson help out? The answer is yes. Will they be as effective? The answer is probably not. I do like Denver. Their defense is going to be all over the field this year. Former Bears defensive coordinator Vic Fangio is the head coach now, so he's taking control of that defense. Probably going to call the plays, even though Rich Scangello is the Rich Scangarello actually he's the offensive coordinator, but the defensive coordinator technically is Ed Donatel. He'll throw in his input. He's been in the league 28 years with experience, so I mean they're going to lean on each other. But I want to see what that offense can do. If that offense can't move, Flacco's going to have a tough time. This Broncos team reminds me a lot of the 05-06 Bears, where they had the defense, and they have a 1-2 punch at running back. The Broncos have Royce Freeman and Phillip Lindsay. The Bears had Thomas Jones and Cedric Benson. R.I.P. Cedric Benson. Anyways,
Yeah.
that was a sad story to hear that came out of Austin, Texas last week, but Denver is a wild card to me in that division, only because they can create havoc. That defense is going to keep them in a lot of games. And Oakland, I don't agree with you on the they don't have a running back. I like Josh Jacobs. I'm a big Josh Jacobs fan with him coming out of Alabama. I think he's going to instill a lot of life. I just think well, we're going to see if Antonio Brown can keep his mouth shut for Oakland. And I think that after about between week 8 and 10, you're going to see a lot of frustration come out on him. And you're going to see a lot of finger pointing and whatnot. And, he's not going to have the same rapport as he had with Ben for all those years. And you wouldn't think he would anyways because it's a new system, new quarterback, whatnot. But I think Oakland, licks a lot of their wounds this year before they go to Vegas. But that's how I have the same order as you do.
All right, man. Well, I want to jump to the AFC South. I'll let you start with this, but I do want to say this right now. This is going to be the most exciting division in professional football to watch from wire to wire. I'm going to do my picks after you do for this division. But honest to God, Jacksonville could win this division and the Colts could miss the playoffs. It's that wide open because there are some things in place for Nick Foles to have success, and that defense could be really good. And with Luck's injury, if it's going to be a lingering thing, Houston could end up being the number 1 seed in the AFC this year. Like, it's that crazy open. Or they could finish 3rd in their division. You just don't know. So, Eric, I'm fascinated with what you think about what I think is going to be the most intriguing and most unpredictable division in the NFL this year.
All right. Well, here's the only thing that's predictable with this division. Tennessee's going to end up in last place.
I agree.
And I'll tell you why. I'm going to start from the bottom and make my way to the top. Tennessee's going to be in last place for really the sole reason. Marcus Mariota. As high as I've been on Mariota for the last couple of years, I can't see him all of a sudden changing into some superstar quarterback and leading the Tennessee Titans to the division title. There's already rumors out there that he could lose a starting job to Ryan Tannehill. Yeah, you've heard that name before, sports fans. He was in Miami, and he really couldn't get the ball downfield. I do not like either scenario for the Titans, especially this year. What the Titans need to do is put up or shut up with Mariota and let him do his thing. If they keep trying to control him, handing the ball off to Derrick Henry, who knows what you're going to get. Listen, they brought in Adam Humphries from Tampa. He had a lot of targets last year. I'll be surprised if he even gets half the targets in Tennessee that he got in Tampa, and that's over a 16-game schedule. Because Tennessee doesn't throw the ball as often as Tampa did last year. And he had a chance to go to New England. Man, I think you might have made the wrong choice. And I don't say that very often for a guy who's looking for a new team. Yeah. Tennessee, congratulations, you're in the basement.
Yep.
Third, for me, is Jacksonville. Listen, I know what Foles can do. I've seen what Foles can do. But, man, this ain't Philadelphia anymore. And I still think Philly made the wrong choice. We'll find out this year. Can Wentz stay healthy in Philly? Can Foles stay upright in Jacksonville? I know we talked about Jacksonville's defense earlier. But, with a couple of guys who are out, one deciding not to play this year, those are big holes to fill in Jacksonville. And, again, they're going to have their home game in London. Just call them the London Rippers for crying out loud. Jacksonville, to me, they could be good. They could be right in the middle. They could be down where Tennessee is as far as the record goes. As long as Jalen Ramsey puts up and shuts up, that defense could make big strides and be a very sleeper defensive team. However, can Leonard Fournette carry the load? Because his backup from last year is now in Buffalo. Marquise Lee, he's coming off an ACL injury from last year. How is he going to fare? How is D.D. Westbrook going to be? I'm curious to see how Foles looks because, man, he trusted his wide receivers and tight ends in Philly. This ain't Philly anymore, Nick. It's Jacksonville. So, to me, they're third. Second, man, first and second's a toss-up. You really got to know, is Andrew Luck going to play the whole year or even 14 out of 16 games? If Luck plays 14 out of 16 games, and I'm assuming he's going to miss the first 2 weeks, Indy takes the division, Houston the second. I believe still both make the playoffs if Luck does play. I just think the Colts came on last year and just showed Houston what was up, even though Houston won the division and the Colts went in there and beat them in the playoffs. And I think that was a changing of the guard right there, especially if Luck comes back. If Luck doesn't come back, Indy could be as worse as third. Because I'm sorry, but Jacoby Brissett, and we've gone over a schedule with Indy and what it could be in the last show. And it could be ugly. It could be 4-12 if Luck doesn't play the whole year.
Yeah.
The Texans, if Luck doesn't play the whole year, Texans easily win the division.
Running away, right. And that's even with injuries on the offensive line for Houston. Because Deshaun Watson is that good. Oh, yeah. So
right now, Colts, Texans, Jacksonville, Tennessee. But man, Luck doesn't play. It's Houston, Jacksonville, Indy, Tennessee.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it can be crazy. Well, Eric, guess what? Exact same order for the AFC South. I got Indy at number 1 because I do believe that Andrew Luck is going to be healthy. I do believe that Andrew Luck's only going to miss 1 game. I don't think he's going to miss 2. I think that they were taking a preseason precaution with him, and I think that Indy is going to be the number 1 seed in the AFC, or the number 2 seed in the AFC, rather. Sorry. Well, let's put it this way. They could be 1 or 2, depending. Now, the rest of the way down the pike, I think Houston's definitely in my wild card picture, okay? I'm definitely putting Houston there. Look, as far as Indy and Houston goes, I'll put it simply. With Indy, Andrew Luck and what he has around him and the fact that they got, and this is according to Joe Gibbs, the Indianapolis Colts, when they drafted that center from Alabama, Joe Gibbs said it's the closest thing to Russ Grimm I've seen in a long, long time. When one of the greatest coaches in NFL history compares a lineman to one of the greatest centers in modern football history in Russ Grimm, you know you got yourself a Hall of Famer, right? And to have a Hall of Famer at that position, just ask Peyton Manning how vital that is to your offensive line. So I got Indy at number 1. My second favorite quarterback in all of the AFC. For all of you longtime fans, you know who my favorite quarterback in the AFC is. It's Andy Dalton. Deshaun Watson is my number 2. Hands down. It's not even close. I love watching Deshaun Watson play. And Houston, they're going to be a talented team for a very long time, regardless of what happens to J.J. Watt in a few years. He's just that good. I got Indy going 11-5, 12-4, as we talked about on the last show. I got Houston going 10-6, 11-5, depending on injuries. Now, Jacksonville, I got them at 8-8. And I think Nick Foles, with a good defense and a good running game and a good ownership in front, can really do a lot. He can do a lot with that. And I think that Jacksonville, made the right move in going after him. I agree with you. I think Philly made the wrong choice. All things being equal, I like Carson Wentz. Again, those of you that know me, he's probably my 3rd favorite quarterback overall. I'd probably say it's Goff, Dalton, Wentz, Watson, right now. But I wouldn't have Wentz as my starting quarterback. I would have let that contract go away, and I would have kept Nick Foles just because I know what Nick did for the organization and what he can do with our head coach. I think he's a good quarterback. I thought he was a good quarterback in Philly the first time. I was excited when he went to the Rams. I was disappointed with what Jeff Fisher did. And for those of you that want to call him a bust, just remember for 2 years when he was traded to the Rams, who his head coach was. It wasn't Sean McVay. It was the same guy that ruined Vince Young's career, the same guy that nearly ruined Jared Goff's career, the same guy that ruined Aaron McNair's career, the same guy who agreed with the trading of Warren Moon when he was with the Houston Oilers. That's who he worked with. So let's quit pretending for a minute like Nick Foles is this up and down quarterback we don't know. When the man has had a coach, he has been outstanding. And the future in Jacksonville, I think, looks very bright. But I got him 8-8, 7-9, and missing the playoffs. As far as the Tennessee Titans go, and again, Jacksonville could win that division if Nick goes off and the defense shows up. I want to disagree with one thing. I don't think Jalen Ramsey needs to shut up and put up. I think Jalen Ramsey needs to keep running his mouth, but he needs to back up what he's saying. Trash talking is a way of life in the secondary. It's been a way of life in the secondary since Blunt played in the 70s. And if these social justice warriors can't handle it, then take the tampon out of your vagina, clean it, put a new one in, and suck it up, Buttercup. I don't want to hear it. Now, as far as the Tennessee Titans go, I like Mariota. I like Derrick Henry. I like the offensive line move that they got getting Roger Saffold from the Rams. Tennessee, if they run the ball and they play defense with that head coach, they could win the division, or they could be 4-12. Mariota is too inconsistent. I like him, but he's too inconsistent. My opinion, he's a backup quarterback. He's not a starter. After seeing the 4 years he's played in the NFL, that's my conclusion. He's an NFL caliber QB, but he should be backing up somebody, not starting somewhere. Just my 2 cents. So with that being said, Tennessee's got a lot of problems on their football team that they got to fill. They do have 3 key positions covered, but you need a lot more than that moving forward. So for me, Tennessee just by default was such a competitive division, but they could be in last place at 7-9, 8-8. And Jacksonville could be 9-7, Houston could be 11-5, and Indy could be 12-4. I'm telling you, this is the best division in football to watch. But Eric, we have the exact same order.
Right. So I got a question for you. Did Tennessee and Tampa get it right drafting 1 and 2 with Mariota going to Tennessee and Winston going to Tampa?
I mean, did they get it right? How do you explain that? I mean, they were the best 2 quarterbacks in the draft. I would say the Titans got it right more than Tampa did. But if I'm just going to shoot straight from the hip, no, they should have gone with a different position. They should have been able to determine from their homework that these guys weren't 1 and 2 picks. They should have drafted a lineman. They should have drafted somebody that will protect the quarterback they do bring in the future. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
All right. Now, for the first division that we are going to have a disagreement on, I've been going back and forth on this. So right now, I'm going to say something that I think a lot of people are going to be like, what in the hell are you talking about? I know that this team lost an offensive lineman for the year, a rookie offensive lineman, which is always difficult to deal with. But they drafted multiple guys in that draft, and one of the linemen that they drafted is Michael Jordan from Ohio State, who plays center and guard. Now, I know what you're thinking. Some of you that really know football already know who I'm talking about. I think this is the most underrated team in the AFC by a long shot. Andy Dalton has proven time and time again that he can win in this league. Joe Mixon has showed time and time again that he's a top-tier running back in this league. They addressed the offensive line in free agency and in the draft. They added by subtraction their defense by getting rid of Burfett. And Tyler Eifert is a serviceable tight end, certainly better than Hunter Henry when healthy. Their receiving core is really talented, underutilized to be sure, but a new coach, new system. We saw it in LA in 2018. We saw it in Chicago in 2019, and you're going to see it in Cincinnati in 2019, in 2020. 2019? So 2017, 2018, and now you're going to see it again in 2019. I think Cincinnati stuns everybody. I think they win their division, and I could see them going as high as 12-4, as low as 11-5, 10-6. And the team I'm going to talk about next could very easily be the division winner instead of them. But Cincinnati is so overlooked, it's not even funny. And you got a guy that's going to come in and know how to run the ball and utilize the wide receivers and train the quarterback to do bigger and better things than what he was already trained. I mean, Andy Dalton did what he did with freaking Marvin Lewis as this head coach. Okay? What is he going to do with these guys at his back and this kind of system being run? I think Cincinnati is going to be everyone's going to be like, no one saw the Bengals coming. Bull stick. You heard it here first. Cincinnati could theoretically be the 1 seed in the NFL this year. And that's what I'm going to say. Because Andrew Luck misses 2 games, I think the Colts go 11-5. I think the Bengals go 12-4. I'm going to call it. For the purpose of a preseason show, I'm going to go all out, and I'm going to go with what my gut's telling me. Number 2 is the Cleveland Browns, and they will definitely be in the wild card conversation. Okay? 10-6, maybe 11-5, depending if they can steal a win against a top-tier team. Everyone's high on them for good reason. Nick Chubb's a great running back. OBJ's a great receiver. Baker Mayfield proved that he is. I want to say something about Baker Mayfield. I was listening to this idiot, and I like it. I shouldn't call him an idiot. I like this guy, so it pains me to call him out like this. But I was listening to this guy on the radio out here. He usually does afternoon shows. He's not an Arizona guy. It's a national show. And he sometimes talks politics and he gets controversial. And I tend to agree with him on a lot. He's also a big Cowboys fan. But he talked about Baker Mayfield and saying, I've never heard in my life a quarterback talking crap about another quarterback, let alone somebody on another team. And I'm like, dude, do your homework. The first thing I thought of when I heard Baker Mayfield was, oh, okay, Jim McMahon. I'm not going to lose my starting position to a midget. Does anybody remember that? Was it exactly a glowing endorsement of Doug Flutie? Okay, how about, oh, I don't know, Peyton Manning when asked about Ryan Leaf and him forever going down as 1-2 and him saying, I think it's clear one team made a good choice and the other team did no homework. You think that was a glowing endorsement of Ryan Leaf? I don't think so. How about John Elway when talking about Bernie Kosar and said, I wouldn't teach my son to throw that way? Right? Like, this isn't the first time this has happened. So I don't know why we're pretending like when people do something, it's, oh my gosh, I can't believe he talked about the Giants quarterback. Shut up. Open a book, read some history of the NFL. This isn't not only not uncommon, it's rather normal. How many times did other teams talk trash about Terry Bradshaw, saying he was dumb as a rock and was too stupid to play quarterback? Not exactly a glowing endorsement. So, you know what, Baker? You be you. Let these social justice warrior snowflakes melt into oblivion, and you keep being a BA because you are so fun to watch. And I love that you're raw and you're real. So, Cleveland, loaded with talent, loaded with personalities. Moving forward, we'll see what Kinchin can do. But the Browns, for right now, for me, they look like a solid number 2. And in the wild card picture. Number 3, Baltimore Ravens. Captain Fumbles a lot will strike throughout the course of the season. And Baltimore fans will find out really quickly that Jackson was probably a project that should be in the training stages behind Joe Flacco so he can learn how to better be a quarterback in the NFL. But they didn't do that. They threw him into the starting ranks. So I think a lot of those mistakes you saw last year are going to be highlighted, exasperated, and put out there. And I think teams know how to stop the Ravens. I think it's going to be no secret how to stop the Ravens. And if Jackson is able to run like he always does, then I'm just going to say one word. Okay, I'm going to say one word and a set of numbers. Actually, I'm going to say 3 letters and a set of numbers. RG, Roman numeral 1, Roman numeral 2, Roman numeral 3. RG3 ran and was the scourge of the NFL and was rookie of the year. One bad run ended his career. Go ahead and have a running quarterback. Let's see what happens with Jackson. He can't hold on to the football. He doesn't know how to read a defense, and he runs. So maybe Baltimore's 8-1, 6-2, 5-3, and then he tears his ACL and they end up going 8-8, 7-9, 6-10, whatever the case may be. I got Baltimore in 3rd. I think they'll eventually fade away if they're even that strong to start out the gate. Last but not least, the weaponless, talentless Pittsburgh Steelers led by Ben Rapesberger. Epstein Jr. down in Pittsburgh, the one that likes to rape 16-year-old girls in bathrooms and then later get away with it. The guy who has no receivers outside of Juju Smith-Schuster to pass to, and a good tight end in Vance McDonald but is underutilized. A line that is aging as well, and a defense that didn't exactly get better, in my humble opinion. I got Pittsburgh going 4-12 and holding up the division from the bottom. That's my prediction. Eric, rip it apart because I know you have a whole different outlook on the North.
Well, first of all, Baker Mayfield was taken out of context. I need you to do your homework, open up a book, and...
Hey, I'm just reporting what I was told. I don't know what he said.
What?
I don't know what he said. I'm defending him.
He didn't call out Daniel Jones. He was taken out of context that the reporters were saying he called out Daniel Jones. If you reach out to Daniel Jones, it was like, basically, clear the air. He's like, we cool over text? And he's like, yeah, we're cool.
Yeah.
So there was really nothing there. It was basically a made-up media story. Like, they've never done that before.
Yeah.
Anyways,
yeah, right. Fake news.
so to the AFC North. Yes, I'm gonna rip it to shreds. However, before I do that, I will say, if you are right, I will take the link to this show on YouTube. When everybody's like, "Oh, we didn't see Cincinnati coming out," I will send this to everyone, Facebook, email, Twitter, and I will send this to everyone who said we didn't see the Bengals coming, and I will let them know to listen at the whatever mark that you started at with the AFC North and say, this guy called it back on August 24th.
Yep.
I'll send it up. I'll even copy you on emails and Facebook messages, and I'll copy your wife on Twitter so she sees it too.
There you go.
And you can see it.
Okay, fair enough. I like that.
All right, so the AFC North. I've been touting them since the end of last year, even probably before the end of last year, but Cleveland wins the North. Yep. Sorry, I don't see anybody with more talent. Listen, one of the best wide receivers to play the game in the last 10 years, Antonio Brown, moved on to a different team, creating his own headaches there. We already talked about him, but he left the AFC North. He was one of the best wide receivers in that division for how long? AJ Green was up there. He's going to start the year injured and miss the first 2 to 4 weeks, maybe. But Cleveland trades for Odell Beckham Jr. Huge upgrade. And I know Odell came out and was like, I know the Giants traded me here because they thought my career was just going to die here. Man, when you're trading them to Cleveland and you have Baker Mayfield, it's not like you got Tim McCown as your quarterback or Johnny Manziel as your quarterback. You have Baker freaking Mayfield. Yep. And Baker's got that chip on his shoulder. Baker doesn't care what you think about him. He's going to go out there. He's going to play football. He's going to win football games. And you know what? Cleveland got a taste of it last year when he came in for an injured Tyrod Taylor against the Jets and led them back to a victory. And, man, you could hear the sigh of relief, and you're like, wow, there's good things coming. Good things are coming. And this year starts that step to what eventually will be the Super Bowl for the Cleveland Browns. However, they take the North this year. Second place, Pittsburgh. Yes, Pittsburgh. A lot of their headaches are gone. I know a lot of talent is gone too. But, yeah, they have Smith-Schuster.
Wow, Pittsburgh.
Receiver. They also have a wide receiver
wow.
that you are sleeping on, that you probably never heard of.
Oh, hold up.
No.
I love Juju Smith. I was the one that wanted to draft him over Everett with the Rams. Let's be clear.
James Washington will come out of nowhere and have a really good year. And don't forget, listen, they also have Dante Moncrief, and you're like, who? Yeah, Dante Moncrief. He was Luck's number 2 guy in Indy for a couple of years.
Yeah, with the Colts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know a lot of people don't realize that Moncrief is going to create a lot of headaches with a lot of attention on Smith-Schuster. And then, of course, Vance McDonald. But I think they need to utilize him more. But you still got Jalen Samuels backing up James Conner. And James Conner did great last year up until he got injured. But, getting injured in football happens. So I'm not going to make excuses. But I think he's going to carry the rock once again and really help Pittsburgh become a little bit more balanced and not have to pass for 45 to 5,000 yards for Ben. Ben is 36. He is getting up there in age, obviously. He's no spring chicken anymore. So, with that being said, yeah, I think they take a step back in their overall scoring, and that's how Cleveland is able to overtake them, because Cleveland finally gets over that hump. They beat the Steelers 1 or 2 times this year, and man, you'll never hear a louder crowd go crazy when Cleveland beats the Steelers 1 or 2 times this year.
Oh yeah.
Third, Baltimore. Listen, I know Suggs is gone. I know Mosley's gone. They now have Earl Thomas in the secondary. I still think that their defense is going to be very underratedly good. I don't know how. They're missing a lot of the key names that have left the organization. But John Harbaugh runs a tight ship. And he's going to get that team to believe in his system and rally around the troops and say, you know what, we still need you. We got a really good wide receiver in Marquise Brown, and yeah, he's raw. We're going to throw it deep, and nobody's going to be able to overthrow him because Lamar Jackson's going to underthrow him. Um, but don't sleep on Mark Andrews either. Lamar Jackson is going to have a nice security blanket with Mark Andrews at tight end. And that brings me to Anthony's division winner, Cincinnati, coming in fourth place. I know Mixon can run for 1,500 yards. That's not even an issue. The issue is Andy Dalton. And to me, listen, with the new head coach, I'm not saying it can't happen because we've seen it happen with McVay. We've seen it happen with Nagy. We'll see if it happens with LaFleur. We'll see if it happens with Zach Taylor. But, Green starting this season injured. Mixon's going to have to carry the rock and prove that he's startable, him and Bernard. And I just don't think this is Cincinnati's year, to be honest. And that's why at Cincinnati, they're not going to be as bad as I thought once they might be. Like, I'm not going to put them at 4-12. They could be in last place, but they could be 7-9.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they could be at. That could even be one of the divisions that's all 8-8 or better. But I got Cincinnati coming in fourth place in that division. But I also want to point out, and I saw this, looking at Baltimore's schedule, okay? You look at their schedule, they start out at Miami, home, away, home, away, home, away. They never play 2 games at home in a row. They never play 2 games on the road in a row. I rarely ever see that in the NFL.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're either home or away, but you're never away for more than a week. So they're week 7 they're in Seattle. Week 8 is their bye week, so they're going to be home for 2 weeks preparing for New England. And if I had 2 weeks to prepare for New England every time, I'd be undefeated.
Yeah, especially this year. All right. Well, so we agree entirely on the South and the West. I put this in the East. The North is all mixed up, but we knew that.
Was a cluster.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and let you take over with the East.
All right, the East. So we're all battling for second place in the East.
Yep.
I got New England at number 1. And then this is where it gets fun. Your 2 and 3 may be different slightly than my 2 and 3. I got the Jets coming in second place, the Bills at third, and Miami a way distant fourth.
It's identical. So
I like Dalton. I think Dalton's further along than Josh Allen. And, everything you said about Lamar Jackson, you could probably say about Josh Allen. However, hearing about what Josh Allen did in the offseason and look at all his mistakes on film or whatnot, Buffalo's going to be better for it. And everybody, this division is set up for when Tom Brady finally retires, whether it's this year or next year. And, the way his contract is, it's looking like his last year. But, man, go out on top and win the Super Bowl and leave.
No.
Do it John Elway.
Nope, he's not gonna. So I agree. By the way, Darnold, I know you meant Darnold. You said Dalton. You just last talked about the Bengals, so that's understandable. I got New England at 10-6 winning the division. I think New England is extremely susceptible this year. I don't think you're going to see them win games against. I think they're going to struggle in their division. I think they'll win 5 of their 6 games in their division, but I think they're going to lose 1 game to the Jets. I think they're going to have a hard time with the Giants. I think they're going to have a hard time with Cleveland, even though they're home. Baltimore. I think they're going to struggle with Philly, Dallas, Houston, Kansas City, Cincinnati. They will struggle this year, but they will win enough with a 5-1 division record and a 5-5 outside the division record. They'll end up 10-6, win the East. The New York Jets are going to come in at second, around 8-8, 9-7, depending on how they do. I think Le'Veon Bell is a huge injection of enthusiasm in the arm. I think the Jets have a lot of potential to really challenge New England, but I think ultimately New England ends the season at home against Buffalo and Miami, and that's where they're going to win their last 2 games. And the Jets, on the other hand, if you look at their last 2 games, not so easy. Their last 2 games are against, I have it right here. They're home against Pittsburgh and at Buffalo. So actually, the Pittsburgh game might be an easier game than Buffalo. But I think the Bills having an opportunity to eliminate their division rival from the postseason. I think the Bills will do that. I got Buffalo going 7-9, 8-8, depending on how they do through some of their stretch runs. And I think that these two teams are going to be the next division race for years to come. Miami, there's a reason the Patriots went ahead and let their coordinator go to Miami. They knew he wasn't any good, and they knew that, go to our division. We're guaranteed 2 wins a year. They knew he wasn't any good, and they knew the team he was going to wasn't any good. So that's a bad combination, but benefits New England. You look at every single coach they've lost to within the division, it's never come back and bit them in the butt for longer than a year. So, yeah, I mean, Mangini wasn't a very good coach, and he went to the Jets. I know he led him to a couple playoff runs, but stole the division once from New England, but that was about it. Beat New England once in the playoffs, actually, I think. But I got New England at 10-6, Jets at 8-8, Bills at 7-9, and then Miami could be as bad as 2-14, 3-13, 4-12. Now, my wild card thing changes here a little bit. We talked about this. In my wild card picture, Cleveland, Houston, Jacksonville, Denver, maybe the Jets on the outside. Here's what I've got. I've got Cleveland and Denver as the wild card teams. I've got New England as the 1 seed. Cincinnati is the 1 seed. Indy is the 2 seed. I got Kansas City as a 3 seed and New England as a 4 seed. Now, in my playoff prediction, that means Kansas City is going to end up playing at home against Denver. Not a good draw for the Chiefs. I've got New England at home against Cleveland. Not a good draw for New England. But I think Mahomes at home, Flacco in Kansas City. I'm going to go Kansas City over Denver in a close one, and I'm going to go Cleveland with an upset over New England. Just because I think Baker Mayfield and the Browns, they know cold weather, they'll handle it. That means I've got the Browns as the lower seed, which means they go to the 1 seed, which means you have an Ohio Valley battle between the Bengals and the Oilers, or the Oilers, the Browns. I got the Colts. Man, I don't have the Texans in it. I just realized that. Man, that's tough to do. Houston could very well be in the picture. Substitute Denver with Houston. I still think Houston loses to Kansas City, so it doesn't change. Now Kansas City, instead of being home against Indy, goes to Indy. Okay? I got the Colts beating the Chiefs. I got the Bengals beating the Browns. I got Indy going to Cincinnati. Dude, the Bengals have never lost a championship game at home. But this isn't the 1980s. This isn't the same situation. I think if Andrew Luck is playing, the Colts win. If Andrew Luck is injured or is limping going into that game, I think the Bengals win. But I'm going to go with my gut. I'm going to stay true to form. I'm going to pick the Colts to go to the Super Bowl. Eric, your playoff breakdown for the AFC before we move to the NFC and do our predictions. You there?
I am laughing. You have no idea. I am laughing so hard. You say you go with your gut for the Colts to go to the Super Bowl. Who's been touting the Colts
You.
to the Super Bowl for the last year?
Hey, but I've been listening, and I agree with you on a lot of reasons.
This is. I love it. Okay, so we have a little bit different seats here. Okay. Number 1 is Kansas City for me. Number 2 is New England for me. Now here's where it gets interesting. Number 3 is Cleveland. Number 4 is Indy. And you're going to shake your head, roll your eyes when I say who my 5th team is, but that's Pittsburgh. And then the Texans come in at 6. So here's what I have. I have Houston going to Cleveland. Okay? Yes, folks. You heard that right. Houston going to Cleveland. And the Browns beat the Texans. Okay. Pittsburgh going to Indy. I mean, I've been telling the Colts to go to the Super Bowl, so of course Indy has to win, right? Even though I've rooted for Pittsburgh for how long? Yes, Indy beats Pittsburgh. They get revenge from 94 or
95.
What was that?
95.
95.
Yep.
95. Okay, so then Cleveland goes to New England. I think that's where Cleveland's run ends, is in New England. And I actually have the opposite of you. I got New England winning that game. Listen, Indy's got a gauntlet of a playoff schedule. They go to Kansas City. They exercise those demons from the playoffs last year, and they get back to Kansas City and beat Kansas City in Kansas City. Man, Chiefs fans aren't going to be happy with me. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, they aren't.
So that leaves Indy going to New England. Can they do it twice in a row in hostile environments on the road? Man, I'm sorry, but I can't have Indy lose when I picked them to go to the Super Bowl. Indy beats New England, and guess what? If Luck doesn't play this year, my Super Bowl pick changes to Kansas City beating New England in the AFC Championship game, getting revenge from last year where they didn't get the ball in overtime. Which, hey, those are the rules, Chiefs fans. Those are the rules. You actually beat them in regulation against New England at home in Arrowhead, where that crowd is going to be twice as raucous as it was last year.
You know, it's so interesting that you say that, because if Andrew Luck doesn't play, this is how much my picture changes. Houston wins the division, Denver wins the wild card. I got Houston as the 2 seed, and in that situation, I got Houston going to the championship game against Cincinnati and the Bengals winning. So it's funny how one player can completely change the dynamic of what we're talking about. But
correct. And I'll tell you this much, even though everybody moves up one, okay, I'm going to throw another team as a possible wild card, the 6th seed most likely. But watch out for the Jets.
Yeah, I think that if they get in, it'll be a 6 seed, and I agree with that. Again, my wild card picture was Cleveland, Houston, Jacksonville, New York, and Denver. Now, I had originally said when I did my breakdown that Denver and Cleveland wins, but remember, I caught that error halfway through, and I changed to Cleveland and Houston. So my official playoff picture is Cincinnati, Indy, Kansas City, New England, Houston, Cleveland. I'm sorry, Cleveland, Houston. I've got Houston beating or losing to Kansas City, and then we went from there. So you guys are understanding what we're talking about. Now, that's being said, interesting playoff picture. But now we go to the NFC, and we'll start. You want to go east to west now?
Let's start west to east.
West to east. We're going to keep it consistent. Okay, look, there's not a lot to talk about here. The Los Angeles Rams are the best team in the AFC West. Sorry, they're also the best team in the AFC East. But that's another story.
NFC West.
I'm sorry, NFC West. They're also the best team in the NFC East, to be perfectly honest with you. But that's neither here nor there. Look, the Rams will win their division 11-5, maybe 12-4, depending on how they do against Atlanta. I got the Rams winning their division, and they're going to be running away with it. I got San Francisco finishing second at 7-9, 6-10. I got Seattle at 5-11, 6-10, and I got Arizona at 3-13, 4-12, maybe, but probably 3-13. It's not going to be close. The Rams will have their division wrapped up by Thanksgiving, and it's going to be on to, the Ram fans going, "Oh, Anthony, you were so wrong. They're going to win the Super Bowl," and everyone's going to have a high opinion of themselves moving forward because that division is going to be so bad. Seattle has lost too many weapons on defense. They've lost too many weapons on offense, and I'm sorry, but I have lived long enough to know that one guy cannot win you a lot of games, especially when you don't have the pieces around you and there's a better team in your division. And in this case for Seattle, there are 2 teams that are better than them in that division. So say what you want. Say I'm a homer. Say I hate the Seahawks. I hate the Niners more, and I'm picking the Niners to finish second in that division at 7-9, 6-10. I got Seattle again going 5-11, 6-10, and I got Arizona at 3-13. E, go.
Same scenario as the AFC West, same order as the AFC West that you had, that I had, and I have the same order of the NFC West that you have, and I think it's a runaway just like you have. Really, it boils down to who's coming in second, and I still think it's San Francisco over Seattle, and you couldn't be more spot on about what Seattle has lost. And Arizona, yeah, they're going to find out what real life is like when a head coach opens their mouth and says, "Oh, I would have drafted this guy." Well, guess what? You have that option, and you're not going to be doing well.
Nope.
But I will tell you this, I do have the Rams as the number 1 seed.
Really?
Yep.
See, I have the Rams as the number 2 seed. So you got them going 12-4?
I got them as the number 1 seed. So if that's like 6 and 10, that's fine.
Whatever. What do you have them as? 12 and 4?
I got up like 12 and 4, 11 and 5.
Yeah, I got them at 11 and 5 is where I'm leaning, but they could be as good as 12 and 4. So for me, they could be the 1 or the 2 seed, depending on whether 12 and 4 or 11 and 5. All right, Eric, let's move to the South. I know this isn't going to be the same.
No, this isn't going to be the same. I actually, while I was looking at it and thinking about things, man, my South has changed probably from when I first started thinking about it. Here's where I think we can all agree on. Tampa Bay is going to be holding up the division.
Yep.
But, however, my first place team and division winner is going to be the Falcons. The second place team, and who also takes a wild card, is going to be the New Orleans Saints, and then Carolina rounds it out at 3.
Are you serious? It's the exact same order. I got Tampa Bay in last because they suck and they've done nothing to get better, and I only have 2 words for you, Jameis Winston. Carolina, I think, is going to be in the wild card picture. Yes, I said it. They will be in the wild card picture at the end of the year. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm picking them to win it. I've got New Orleans at the 2 seed. I think you lose Ingram. I think that championship game, which I'm going to dub the kick, it's tough to overcome back-to-back postseason losses the way the Saints have had to endure. So you can't expect them to do anything but take a step back. And I think Atlanta, they proved to themselves last year that they're every bit as good as they thought they were the year before when they made the playoffs after such a heartbreaking Super Bowl defeat. I think they're hungry to get back. I like their coach. I like their offense. I like their defense. And I got Atlanta winning their division as well. And I could see Atlanta winning their division 11 and 5. So, but probably 10 and 6 because in this scenario, I got them beating the Rams. So I got them 11 and 5. I got the Rams. Actually, I got the Rams beating them. It's the Bears that I'm worried about at home. So because the Rams beat Atlanta, that's why the Rams are the 2 seed and the Falcons are the 3 seed at 11 and 5. Go ahead.
We going to the north?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to the north. Surprised at who I have at the top of my list, but Chicago.
Shocker!
That's right. Number 2 team in the NFC North is the Vikings, followed by the Packers, and then the Lions. I got the Bears as the 2 seed coming out of the North with a bye week.
Wow. Okay. We are a little bit different in this division as well. I got the Bears winning the division at 12 and 4, and I got the Bears as the 1 seed. So, and actually,
I kind of have the Bears and Rams with the same record, but I think the Rams beat the Bears in LA, and that's why the Bears are 2.
See, I think if the Bears lose to the Rams, they're 11 and 5. And let me rephrase that: Atlanta's going to be the 4 seed, not the 3 seed. Okay, but I've got Chicago winning the division at 12 and 4. I think they beat the Rams just because that offensive line and Havenstein scares me. That Havenstein is going to have to be responsible for Khalil Mack. And I've got a rookie basically playing, even though he's a 2-year veteran, playing center that has to worry about the interior bear rush. It's going to be a very difficult game for the Rams to win. And that's why I'm picking the Bears to win. And that's why the Rams are actually 11 and 5 and not 12 and 4. So that's why I have that flipped as 1 and 2 for me. The number 2 seed in the AFC North may surprise a lot of people, but I like what they've done. I think they keep improving, and I think Kerryon Johnson rushes for 1,000 yards. I got Detroit as the 2 seed and in the wild card conversation. That's right, wild card talk. They're in the wild card conversation is the Detroit Lions. I think they could be as high as 10 and 6. They could be as low as 9 and 7, but I think people are kind of sleeping on them a little bit, and they played really well towards the end of the year defensively. And they're only going to get, I think, stronger. And Stafford's days are limited, but he's a good quarterback. All right. Now I got Minnesota at 3, also in the wild card conversation.
Yeah, my dream NFC North scenario you're giving me right now.
Yeah, I got Minnesota as the 3 seed, and I think they'll be in the wild card conversation. Again, I like their quarterback situation with the talent they have around it, but I don't love their quarterback situation. So they could certainly be in the playoff conversation. But are they actually going to make it? No. And look, the Green Bay Packers, that ship has sailed, folks. Aaron Rodgers, I'm telling you right now, for me, I'm going to love watching Patriot and Steeler games this year. Eric, watch every Packer game you can because you're going to love the outcome every week. I got Green Bay going 5-11, 4-12. I just don't think they don't have a running game. Their offensive line is old and not very talented. The young ones that they do have. Their wide receiving core outside of Devontae Adams that's what I thought. No one knows. Their tight end situation's a joke. Their defense is porous. Their special teams is erratic and inconsistent. Mason Crosby is about the same age as George Washington at the moment. So I don't like anything that the Packers have to offer. And oh, by the way, they have one of my favorite coaches, Mr. Philbin from Miami, right? Oh no. Who did they get? Who did they pick up?
Coach is Matt LaFleur.
Matt LaFleur, that's right. Matt LaFleur. The same guy that was the Rams offensive coordinator their last year in St. Louis and under Jeff Fisher when they were in LA. The same guy.
4 teams in 5 years.
Yep, he's an awesome coach. And you want to know who he was with for 2 years? It was the Rams. He was with the Rams in St. Louis, and he was with the Rams when they were in LA when they made the move. That's the Rams offensive coordinator. And now he's the head coach because he's earned it. He's a flippin' joke moving forward.
So let me ask you this then. With Green Bay coming in last with the record that you gave them, does Rodgers last the whole year?
No. Whether he gets injured or they put him on ice because they're out of the picture, I don't know which of those scenarios will unfold, but it'll be one of the two. All right. I'll do the NFC East. I got the Dallas Cowboys winning the division. Whether Ezekiel Elliott returns or not is going to be a big problem here for me. Because if Ezekiel Elliott doesn't return, I got Dallas finishing third, and I got Philly winning the division. I think Zeke will play at some point let's put it this way. He'll play at some point in the month of September. If he does, Dallas goes 11-5, and they end up the 3 seed and win the division. If they don't, then this team, which will also be in the wild card picture, the Philadelphia Eagles, will end up 11-5 and the 3 seed in the AFC or NFC East or the NFC playoff picture. But right now, I've got Philly in the playoff picture. I've got Dallas winning the division. I got the New York Giants surprising everybody as the third place team in the division. And guess what? Also in the wild card picture. So people are going, Anthony, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got 6 teams competing for the wild card. Yeah, I think the NFC is going to be really, really competitive. And I need to quit saying AFC. It's pissing me off. But I think the Giants will probably be around 9-7, 10-6, 8-8. High water mark for New York is 10-6. Low water mark for New York is 8-8, 7-9, somewhere in that picture. And bringing up the rear, my second favorite team, my beloved Washington Redskins. They got to fire their coach. Here's what's going to happen. It's never happened before under John Gruden. John Gruden? Jim Gruden? Jay Gruden. I don't even know his first name. It's never happened before under Jay Gruden. Are you ready? Offensive line's going to get injured. Defense is going to be riddled with injuries. Skill players are going to be riddled with injuries, and they're going to end up signing guys off the street for like the 19th straight time under Jay Gruden. That's what you can expect in Washington. A promising start followed by a horrendous finish, and somehow Jay Gruden will keep his job next year too. Washington brings up the rear at 5-11, 4-12.
All right. Yeah, we're a little different in the NFC East. I got the Eagles winning the East as a 3 seed. Dallas getting the wild card, the second wild card, so they're 6, followed by Washington Giants. If the Giants start Eli all year, I'm sorry. After trading away Odell, I don't see it with them. But I do think Haskins does play for the Redskins towards anywhere between week 6 and 8. He takes over for Case Keenum. I know they're talking about Colt McCoy coming back from his broken leg. I don't think it really matters. Just have him learn a few games under Case Keenum, even though that's not the best teacher you could probably have. But just let Dwayne Haskins go out there and do his thing. I think I do think they come on in the end. The Redskins do, and win a few games toward the end of the year. to give life to the Redskins, and maybe changes are coming in Washington. We don't know. But that's how I have the NFC East playing out.
All right. Well, here's what I'm going to say. My playoff picture is pretty simple. Chicago's the 1 seed. LA's the 2 seed. Atlanta's the 4 seed. Dallas is the 3 seed. That means Dallas is home against the Saints, who I think is going to be the 6th seed, because I do think New Orleans is going to have struggles this year. Okay? But keep in mind, they could be 11-5 in the 6th seed. Okay? I got Dallas beating New Orleans, because they always, they don't always do. Normally, New Orleans is a house of horrors, but under Drew Brees, Dallas has done better against the Saints. And I just think New Orleans will be the only team in NFL history in consecutive years to have lost in the championship game, the divisional playoff game, and now the wild card game. In consecutive years, they would have had lost in all 3 NFC playoff spots. It's never been done before. It's about to be done here. New Orleans loses to Dallas, which means Dallas goes to LA for a repeat of last year's NFC divisional playoff game. Chicago will play the winner of the Atlanta-Philadelphia game. And I think Atlanta is going to beat the Eagles. I think Carson Wentz, if he's healthy, will make a great game of it. But I think at the end of the day, the Falcons have too many weapons, and Atlanta will go to Chicago to play the Chicago Bears. Now, at that point, I've been saying it, and I'll say it again. The Rams will be one and done. Their line is a problem. It will expose itself like Epstein did little girls at his island, okay? It's bad news if you're a Rams fan. Dallas beats the Rams, making them play each other now 10 times in playoff history and being 5-5 against one another in the playoffs. Fun fact, nobody else can say that in NFL history. These two teams will have played each other now 2 times more than anybody in playoff history, and their record will be dead even. But Dallas gets the advantage, and they advance and go to the championship game to play the Chicago Bears, who I think will handle business in a very tight, very tough, very hard-fought divisional playoff game against Atlanta. Now, Dallas has to go to Chicago. They can stop the run. They can stop the pass. Dak Prescott and the Bears, or the Cowboys, are going to find out that the Bears are legit, and I think Chicago wins that game, probably running away, maybe 24-3, 24-7, 24-0, who knows? But I got the Bears winning and advancing to the Super Bowl to play the Indianapolis Colts. Now, because I'm a dick, I want you to feel what I felt this year. So the Colts beat the Bears by 3, let's say 17-14, with a missed field goal by the Chicago Bears to force overtime.
Okay. So I'm glad we got that out of the way. All right. So in my scenario, Rams are 1, Bears are 2, Eagles are 3, the Falcons are 4, Saints are 5, and Dallas is 6. So that means Dallas goes to Philly. Philly beats Dallas. That game, if the standings were reversed and if it was in Dallas, I like Dallas's chances, but I think Philly takes care of business.
Okay.
That means that the 2 NFC South teams meet in Wild Card Weekend, New Orleans and Atlanta. And New Orleans is like, you know what? We need one last hurrah. New Orleans beats Atlanta. Which means that Philly goes to Chicago and New Orleans goes to the Rams. Have we seen this before? This time there is no double doink. The Bears take care of Philly, no problem. And New Orleans at the Rams. And every Rams fan's dream, every Saints fan's nightmare in LA. Yes, the Rams smoked the Saints twice in the same season.
Nice.
Hello, Chicago at the Rams, which should have been the NFC Championship from last year. And you know what? Down go the Rams on your home field. The last game you'll ever play at the Coliseum is a Rams playoff loss. And you know what? When we play you in your first game the next year in your new home stadium when we beat you there, I don't want to hear you whine and complain about it.
Okay.
But this time, on the same date, in the same stadium, without any rain, the Bears play the Colts. Do not have Princess Purple Rain playing during halftime. and the Bears beat the Colts 24-14.
Ooh, interesting. Okay. Well, we have the same teams making the playoffs in the NFC. Like the same, just the order's mixed up.
Right.
Again, guys, we reserve the right to change this. Obviously, as week 8 progresses, we'll do this again with our
Yeah,
midseason.
remember when I picked the Giants? Got it. You know what? How I picked the Giants that year is the way you're picking the Bengals this year.
Maybe. But I will say this. Have I not been dead on with the Rams every single year in the last 3 years?
You have.
So we'll see. It's going to be interesting. I just got a good feeling about the Bengals. I don't know what it is. I wouldn't even mind seeing a Bear-Bengals Super Bowl. I think that would be kind of cool. Obviously, I'd rather see a Rams-Bengals Super Bowl, although my kid may end up hating the Rams after that because somehow he became a Bengals fan. Don't ask. I didn't do my job, I guess. But, guys, we hope you like the show. Again, we have the right to reserve to change this up, and we will. Week 8, we'll come back. We'll revisit, not week 8, but when everyone's played 8 games. We'll come back. We'll revisit. Probably that week, we'll just cover the Rams and Bears regular season game and then just jump right into a prediction show. I'm not going to lose sleep over much of this stuff right now. It'll be interesting. I got my first game this week as a head coach, make my debut with the school that I'm at. Although it's flag football, it's still football. So kind of excited to see how that unfolds. Make some comments down below if you guys want to know, updates on how my team does that I'm coaching at the high school level. If that's something you want to hear, we can go ahead and talk about that. And you know me, I'm brutally honest. I'm either going to get the job done or we're not. So that's the way I look at it. Coaches coach, players play. Sometimes you call the right play and the players don't execute because you didn't teach them the right situation. Sometimes you make the wrong play and the player makes it happen because he's just an athlete and you're like, you bailed me out of that call. So we'll see how it goes. I'm excited. But make comments if you want me to kind of cover that periodically as we move on. But there's our prediction show. Bears and Colts. We both agree. The question is, who wins? I picked the Colts. E picked the Bears. Time will tell. Next time. Go Rams!
Go Bears.
Horns up!
They're down.
Late.